Tonight's episode is about purpose, perseverance, and the power of a voice behind the microphone. For decades, gospel radio has been more than entertainment. It's been encouragement, ministry, and a connection for communities everywhere. My guest tonight is someone who has dedicated over 40 years to making sure faith-filled music and messages reach the people who need them the most. This is a conversation about legacy, leadership, and what it means to serve through media. Let's get into it. Smoke and Ice begins now.
Smoke and ice, twice as nice. I'm your vice. Smoke and ice.
Welcome to Smoke and Ice with Kelly and Wayne. This is the podcast where you're not only informed, but entertained. Sit back, relax, and remember, where there's smoke, there's fire. And you can't chill without ice. Now, here are your hosts, Kelly Allen and Wayne McCullers.
Smoke and ice, twice as nice. Smoke and ice.
As always, on Smoke and Ice, we present you with a bourbon and a cigar. Sometimes maybe not a bourbon, you caught me slipping before, but we have a bourbon tonight, a straight Kentucky bourbon at that. Now tonight I'm alone. I am doing this all on my own, but it's okay because Wayne sends his love to you all, and he will be back on our next episode. So we have Heaven Hill, and this one right here, I wanted to try it because food critic Morgan Murphy stated that because of the fruity forwardness and the slight oakiness of this, that it actually comes off as a much pricier bourbon. So we're going to try that out today. It is out of Kentucky, so it is considered a bourbon because, it's got to be out of Kentucky, and it has to be at least 51% corn, which this one is. So we're definitely dealing with a bourbon today. So I'm going to try it, and let's see how we like it. Let's see if Mr. Morgan Murphy was correct. Or you know what? I just said Mr. I don't know. I just know the name Morgan Murphy. I haven't followed them much, so I don't want to be incorrect on stating a gender when I don't know. So Morgan Murphy, this one's for you. I'm going to try it. Oh, it is good, guys. It is really good. It is smooth. It's typical flavors of the other bourbons that we've done, but it does match some of those higher end bourbons that I've had in the past. And so it definitely is a great price point for anyone who wants to try it. So if you're in your favorite store buying your spirits, try it out, guys. Heaven Hill, and let me know what you think about it. So this cigar that we have today, it is the Macanudo. This one is Ecuadorian tobacco, and it is infused. Now, we don't do a lot of infused cigars, but we do try them because, again, we're trying a lot of different cigars. So this one is infused. It is bourbon flavored, which goes great with having my bourbon tonight. So we're going to try this one as well. And always leave a comment of what you think about it, if you've tried it, if you haven't, if you want to know where we got it. And we always get our cigars from one or two places. Joker Smoker happens to be where we got this one from this time. Again, if you're in the Triangle area, they have two locations in Raleigh. Great staff. Thank you, Ali. You're the best as always. So let's light up. And I'm going to try and do this as even as possible. All right. I had to do this twice, guys, because I didn't really get the flavor at first. Still not really getting in the bourbon flavor, but it is smooth. This brand is usually light to medium bodied, so they are very good. They're very approachable for anyone who's new. And even if you're an aficionado and you love your cigars and have tons of them, it's still a great smoke. So I do like it, but I'm not picking up that bourbon infusion. But it is a nice pull. It's not very pepper forward. Very, very good. I like it. So we're going to try that one more time. Because I just want to make sure I give you everything that I feel about this cigar. And if I miss something, please leave it in the comments because I will correct myself the next week. But Smoking Ice continues next.
Hi, I'm Kelly Allen. Join me each weekday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for Midday Energy Rush on Positive365.net. I'll bring you all your favorite music from every genre and every decade, plus comedy and positive thoughts all in one place. Go to Positive365.net and you won't be disappointed. That's Positive365.net. We're positively different.
Positively different. Positive 365.
You have now entered another episode of Smoke and Ice, where smoke meets sophistication and ice meets intensity. I'm Kelly, and today I'm guiding a special conversation focused on faith, broadcasting, and impact. My guest is gospel radio pioneer, entrepreneur, and Gospel Hall of Fame inductee. With a 40-year career in radio, my guest has helped shape gospel broadcasting across the country, influencing programming, mentoring broadcasters, and helping artists reach audiences nationwide. He is the owner of Favored 93.7 Internet Radio, a gospel streaming station connecting listeners around the world through inspiration and music. And through JAS Consulting and Entertainment, he continues to develop artists, advise stations, and help gospel media evolve for the next generation. Tonight, we talk about faith, vision, radio, and building something that lasts. Help me welcome Jerry Smith.
Thank you. What a great introduction. I was like wondering, who is that they're talking about? Oh, that's
It's
me.
you. Yes, it's
That's
you.
me.
It's you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, first of all. Smoking Ice, it's an honor. We love having you.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So we'll get started with this. You've said that radio was something that was an inspiration to you, or something that you knew was your calling from an early age. About when did you realize that?
Well, first and foremost, I give honor to God. All blessings flow through him. It's an honor to be with you today. Smoke and ice. I love that that combination.
Yes.
That is awesome. But, you know, I now that I'm older and I look back over my life, I just kind of look at my journey. Kid that comes from the projects of High Ridge Gardens in Danbury, Connecticut, to traveling all around the world through something that was put on my heart at a young age, 12 years old.
Wow.
12 years old, listening to WBLS in New York, the Frankie Crocker, the chief rocker, Frankie Crocker. He used to have these little sayings, and one of his sayings was, "They call me Saran because my rap is so tight." You know what I mean?
Nice.
We all know Saran rap is tight.
Right.
And as a little kid, I just envisioned myself being on the radio and millions of people hearing my voice. You know, you're young, you don't know how many people listen to radio.
Right.
Hundreds of thousands. And well, in New York, it is millions.
It's millions.
And I grew up in Danbury, Connecticut, right on the New York state line, about an hour from New York City. And I used to, have to put aluminum foil on the antenna to the radio to try to get WBLS, which is out of New York, on my radio. I could barely get it, but I just dreamed of being on the radio.
Wow.
And 7 years later, I was doing it in college.
Nice.
DJ Hollywood.
And I know my co-host is going to be a little upset because he's from Connecticut originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, do you know what part?
No, I don't know if it's Hartford or
Okay.
if it's...
I went to school right outside of
Yeah,
Hartford.
yeah. And he's going to kill me because I should know. And I can't remember. And I'm looking at my producer because I'm trying to think if he knows, but we don't know.
It's okay.
But he's from Connecticut.
Okay, all right.
So he'll be a little upset that he didn't get a chance to have this with you. But he's off doing some great things with his daughter. So that's all good. So things have changed. Gospel music has changed. Radio has changed. What did gospel radio sound like when you were first getting started?
Oh my goodness. When I first got started, just to journal my career, I 12 years old, God put radio in my heart. I used to get on our little entertainment center that had record player, 8-track tape player, so it tells you how old I am, right? and the AM and FM, and I used to act like I was DJing, going between the 8-track player and the 45 record,
Wow,
and,
wow.
just playing around. So when I was young, I think the Jackson 5, the Motown sound, the Supremes, Temptations, those artists were out. But 7 years later, when I was 19, that's when I was on the college radio station. And that was, some of the people may not remember D-Train, but Tina Marie, Rick James, it was around that era that I got on the college radio station.
Gotcha.
That's when roller skating to disco music and stuff like that was real popular. Now it's changed. I know it's a generational thing. I'm much older now, 40 some odd years older from when I was in my 20s, and now it's rap music, which when I was in college, Rapper's Delight came out.
Right,
and
right.
That was a huge rap song, and I remember a friend of mine brought me the record, and I was like, what in the world is this? But it sounded good.
Right.
Hop to the hip. And because I was a DJ, it was really cool. The guys in the dorms and the fraternities, they all wanted me to make mixtapes for them and stuff like that. But I came around in the beginning of the hip hop era, but now it just sounds different, and it's harder for me to relate to. Because the rapper, like back then, I think the rap music told stories. They talk junk, you know what I mean? I'm better than you. Mama said knock you out,
right.
so on and so forth. But it wasn't as violent as it is
can be now.
and
Yeah,
degrading to women. But that's just the big difference. But I get this sense now with music, people like the R&B and the songs that told stories. Early on, rap music told a lot of stories of what was going on in the hood and the projects. And then it got to be like about drugs, money, and women. But now I get this sense that people like the stories, the love songs in the music.
and it not being so overt.
Right.
Back in the day, you would hear a song and you got the message without it being told exactly what they wanted, but you got the inference of it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's what you
Now
want.
it's just flat out.
It's just flat out.
What it is.
Right in your face. No filter, no nothing. And I mean, I guess it works, but I miss, like you said, the stories. So, and forgive me because I just assumed you were always, when did you flip from just regular radio over to gospel radio?
My journey is really crazy. I've done rock, classic rock, easy listening white music where I played Barry Manilow, Barbara Streisand, Kenny Rogers.
I like them too.
Yeah, Kenny Rogers, to Genesis, Jethro Tull,
right,
Pink Floyd, Peter Frampton. I've just been blessed, and I didn't realize how later on in my career all those different formats would help me to develop a great formula for gospel. So in 1984 was my first job. It was WBZQ, Greenville, North Carolina, a daytime AM station that played Southern gospel, which is country gospel, contemporary Christian, which is your white artists, Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, and black gospel, which at the time was, Shirley Caesar, Luther Barnes, Little Cedric and the Haley brothers, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And I had every journey, every step of the way, I had great teachers, great program directors, and they were teaching me the business of radio. Because in the beginning, you think it's a play toy and that it's very loose. Like, hey, I like something, I play it. But early on, you realize that no, you're playing a format and you're playing the hits, and it's very structured. And your job is to make it sound spontaneous, like you're flying off the seat of your pants. And so my first radio station was a gospel station. I stayed there for about a year and a half. They kicked me out. They said I outgrew them and that I could be making a lot more money. Back in the mid 80s, you know, minimum wage was like $2.25.
Right.
And they were like, you can make a lot more money than what we're paying you. We encourage you to leave the nest. And I was like, are they just trying to get rid of me? They're trying to fire me? What's going on here? But sure enough, everything Mr. Jim McManus, I owe a lot of my career to him that he saw from me came into fruition. So I left the nest. I went on to work at an easy listening station. That's where I was playing the Barbra Streisand, Neil Sedaka, Kenny Rogers, Kenny Loggins, and so on and so forth. And then they brought in a new program director who flipped the format because that adult listening, easy listening music wasn't being competitive in the ratings. So nobody was doing classic rock. So they flipped it. Of course, I'm scared to death because I don't know anything about classic rock. But because radio is repetitious, I caught on really quick. I didn't know who Pink Floyd was, Peter Frampton, and so on and so forth. But, you know, they kept coming up in rotation. So I became more at ease so much that the program director, the new program director, he said, we're promoting you from nights to afternoon drive. And I was like, what?
That's
because
the biggest platform. Everyone is driving home listening.
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, and the guy who was in that slot had been there for a long time. He was very popular, and he was going to flip. His plan was to flip him to nights and me to afternoon drive. And he said, out of all the DJs, this is the program director, his name is Dick Shannon. And I had no clue how big of a program director he was. He was a national icon in that format. He said, out of all of the DJs, you know the least about the music, but you transitioned the best. And for that reason, bumping your pay up, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, and we're moving you to afternoon drive. And I was scared to death. But everything Mr. Shannon said to me in that meeting, he was like, you're going to do well. You're going to do extremely well in this business. And I want to share some things with you that you need to take with you throughout your career. And think about the end game. When you leave this business, you want to leave with integrity and highly thought of. And while he was sitting at the desk talking to me, I'm like, this white man is crazy. What in the world is he saying? He saw, Mr. McManus saw more in me than I saw in myself. Dick Shannon saw more in me than I saw in myself. It was just like all of the program directors just saw more in me than I saw in myself, and everything that they were saying to me was happening. I'm like, this is crazy.
And it's that boost that they give you that helps you along the way. And for them to see that in you is a great thing, because you might have kept yourself, you know, in a pigeonhole if not for them, for your first job, saying, you've outgrown us, go somewhere else, you know. And it's hurtful, but when you look back on it, like you have, it means, okay, you believed in me enough to let me go because you didn't want to hold me back. And so that's a great thing. That's a really great thing.
And the way that I look at my life is I want to pay it forward because of what they instilled in me. They believed in me, a kid who comes from humble beginnings. And I don't think I shared this with you, that when I was telling people at 12 years old, I wanted to be a DJ, I wanted to be on the radio, they were like, you ain't gonna be on no radio. You don't know nobody know you.
Right.
You on the radio? Ha 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 ha. And then here I am about to celebrate 42 years in August. Yes. 42 years of doing something that I love. I feel like I've cheated life because it's not work to me. It's like a passion. I love it. Every day I get up to do scheduling music or program music or do something. It's like fun, not work. Now there's some time and effort. It is work. Don't let me fool you. But it's something I enjoy, and it's been a great experience, and just great to do what you love.
Awesome. And yeah, we had talked about it before because, I said 40 years, but you were saying 42 years, and that's an awesome thing. So how do you, it's not even asking, how do you stay motivated? Because it's not work to you, it's
Right.
there, but how do you handle the evolution? We talked about the Luther Barnes and the, all the other actors, Mississippi Mass Choir, and all those were traditional sounds. Now we have this new sound. How did you evolve along with the new sound of gospel music?
Well, to be 100% transparent, I can't sing. I was a good dancer probably in the mid 90s.
I think we all lose something when we get a little older.
Right, but I lost that now.
Right.
I can't play an instrument.
Okay.
I can't compose anything. And I admire everybody that can do that. But my gift is my ear. I can hear good music. And that's the formula for my success. So I don't care what you look like. I don't care if you're fine as wine or your toe up from the floor up. I just care about what I hear. And to manipulate that, and I call it ear candy, to present to an audience in a way that they will like it and they'll continue to listen and listen. So music has evolved, but I listen to the vocal quality, I listen to the production of the music, and if it sounds good and the vocals are good, the production is good, it's crisp and clean, I love it. My space is in the gospel universe, but I love artists like Sade, Sting. I like the Police, Freddie Mercury, and his voice,
Queen,
which is very Queen, which is really unique. The Police and Whitney Houston has an amazing voice. Michael Jackson, along with the Tasha Cobbs Leonards and the Tamala Manns and so on and so forth. I just love good music from people that can sing good. So I just use that as my formula for success. It doesn't matter if they're well known or if nobody knows them. I evaluate what I hear coming through the speaker. And will a listener listen through that 4 or 5 minutes of that song to the next song, and then the next song, and the next song, so I can have a successful
And
radio station.
that's amazing because, from back when you could have a mediocre voice, but if you look the part, you had the body, the look, they would push you forward.
And they still do.
And they
don't
still
get me
do.
wrong. Don't get me wrong.
But we do have some people, especially because of social media, and we are now having a force because they're having a large following, and these companies are saying, well, wow, you're doing all this on your own. Can we jump in on this now? And I don't know how smart that is to jump on, with a company after you've gained so much success on your own, but it's now opening doors for people who actually have talent.
Right.
Because before you could sound okay, and through, all the manipulations they can do behind the scenes, they can make you sound decent. But you had the look, you had the body, you had everything. So to hear that, and that's what you're pressing through radio, and up into even now, that's a really great thing, because we just didn't get that before.
You remember Milli Vanilli?
Yes,
right?
yes.
And they weren't really
Singing
rapping the song.
They were not.
And I can't remember her name, but like that song, everybody.
I know
it's
the
a
song, but I'm thinking,
house
oh,
music.
everybody.
Well, around that time, to your point, record labels were hiring people that looked beautiful, like models, and lip syncing to other people who may not have been as attractive, as them, or maybe overweight, but had the great voices. And so they were doing these songs, and the image was somebody else. Well, now I don't think people really care about that. You see a lot of women that are plus sizes, and you don't have to be the skinny little model looking like lady to generate some buzz and some sales, and I like that people don't really care about that and like what they hear, as opposed to the little image of somebody that's
Right. Because I mean, when you're driving in the car, you're not seeing the person anyway.
Exactly.
I just want good music.
Right.
I don't care what you look like.
Yeah.
And your voice makes you beautiful anyway, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
The group that did the song Gonna Sweat Now or whatever, I think the girl was one of Martha Wash sang a lot of songs, and they had other people, emulating or lip syncing her songs. You never saw her image, but you heard her voice on everything because she has an incredible voice. And so I don't think people really care about that.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, no. That's you and a lot of other people. Most people just don't say it, and I'm so glad that you did. So was there a defining moment when you realized that your influence was helping to shape radio and what we hear?
Yeah, there was a moment when we launched the local radio station here, the Light 103.9. I was blessed to be a part of the team to launch it, and then they pretty much handed it over to me. And all of my experiences from working in the different formats, I had the keys to the car. And good radio is good radio. There's a secret sauce, a formula of success. And it's just to play the hits, pick out really good songs that people will listen to for long periods of time, and just be conscious of how those songs turn over. And so I had the chance to do that, and the station in about a half a year went from 14, 15 in the market to number 1. And people all across the country were looking at the radio station and what it was doing, how well it was doing, because everybody tries to figure out, what format can I put on the air to get to the top so I can get the money. So the higher your ratings are, generally the more revenue your radio station pulls in from advertising. And I knew that there were a lot of formats that were failing. For example, they flipped us to gospel from a rock station. It was a rock station that was not doing well in the ratings or revenue. And the general manager was like, what can I put on the air that can get some good listeners, get good ratings, and we can get revenue from it? And he was coming through South Carolina, heard a station that was partially 24 hours of gospel. They ran a lot of block programming, preaching sermons. But he liked the music part of the station. And he said, well, what if we did that in Raleigh 24/7? He pulled me in his office and shared the idea, the vision, and asked me if I would like to program it. And I said, yes, yes, yes. And so he gave me the keys to the car. And sure enough, after our success, there were only 2 FM full-time gospel radio stations. It skyrocketed to over 30.
Wow.
And Radio 1 launched a bunch of them. That was the company that I was working for. So me and our consultant, Alan Sneed, launched about 12 of them. iHeart has a brand called Hallelujah, and they really just duplicated what we were doing in Raleigh. The guy who put it together called me up and he said, hey, I just want you to know that we're doing the same thing you guys are doing, and we monitored your radio station for a full week, and we're doing everything exactly the way that you're doing it in Raleigh. And, and so now they've got about 14 stations that are full-time gospel stations like the Light. And sure enough, people were making a lot of money. We went from the red to the black in like no time. I was shocked when I found out how much money that we were generating, because I'm a creative, I'm a personality, radio guy, programming. I don't really get into the nuts and bolts of the financial part of it. But when the GM told me how many millions that we were plus from the negative, I was like, wow. And I knew right then and there that this thing is going to explode all over the country.
Right.
Now, to be honest, gospel is the hardest format of the urban formats to generate revenue, because there's a lot of stereotypes, a lot of prejudice. I hate to say that. It's hard for black radio to get a lot of the advertising dollars in the market. But gospel, it's even harder, because they connect religion and politics together. So they're thinking Jerry Falwell, Reverend Jesse Jackson, so on and so forth. So it's Al Sharpton. You know, they tie those political figures for some reason into gospel. Now, they may get on the gospel platform to talk about civil rights issues and things that affect our community, but they have nothing to do with
The music.
or
Right.
you know, the listeners. They're just disseminating information.
Right.
So it's difficult, but I knew that this was the next greatest thing, and a lot of these general managers, these companies were going to flip these failing formats to gospel to get that revenue, because radio is a business. A lot of people think, oh, they're doing something nice and kind for the community. They're playing my music that I like.
Right.
No, they're trying to get millions of dollars of advertising dollars that are spent for these businesses to get their message out about their products, goods, and services.
So, and I heard you say that, you know, it's hard to get the advertising for these. What was it about the light when you got that opportunity? What was the uniqueness of it that brought in the sponsorship from advertising and things like that made them say, okay, we can be here and we can advertise with you because we know that you'll have a listening? What was that?
Yeah, it was treating it like a real radio station, and not like, we know the message is in the music. The music is going to minister to people, but people need traffic reports. Believers, you know, drive cars from home to work and work to home. Weather reports. We want to know if it's going to be 100 degrees on how to dress as we go to work, or if it's going to be a blizzard and maybe we need to stay home that day. So it was just treating the format like a real format, disseminating information to the community, just like the secular people do, but the music is just different. So on, you know, the secular radio stations, they're going to have news, they're going to have traffic updates, they're going to have the local weather person come on the station to talk about the snowstorm that's coming. You know, we just wanted, we know that people who are believers, just like their lifestyle is different, the choice of music is faith-based, and everything else is like, you know, we go to fancy restaurants, we like driving nice cars, we like looking clean. Go to a church on a Sunday morning, you'll see Mercedes, Lexuses, BMWs,
Clean.
Cadillacs.
Clean.
Look how people are dressed. We like going to the Crab House and Ruth Chris Steakhouse. You know what I mean? We like nice furniture and big screen TVs. You know, it's just our beliefs, our lifestyle, and our music choice that's the only thing different from somebody that listens to secular radio. And our audience is loyal. They love us and they stick with us. And if we tell them to go to this restaurant or this car lot, guess what? They're going to go.
Wow.
Because they trust us. And they started seeing that.
So what do young broadcasters misunderstand about radio today?
Ooh, that it's a play toy, that they don't have to put in the time. A lot of them come in feeling a sense of entitlement, as opposed to starting like me and most of people who's had the worst jobs, and then you grew as you learned, a lot of them want to be the superstar without putting in the time
Right.
and going through the process. They just want to be at the top. And the radio has changed to be, at one point more personality driven. So you would see somebody who's a receptionist, who's funny, a lot of personality, and get an opportunity to be on air. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's what I see. A lot of times they want to have what the veterans have, like people that may have put in 15, 20 years of time, and the newer people that come on board have been doing it for 2 months,
Right.
and feel like they're
And
equal to that.
I think that sense of entitlement comes because now on most of the major stations, you see actual comedians or entertainers that get these shows because they drive people because of their name.
Right.
So they feel like, well, if they can do it, I can. And so they come out of college or, wherever, and they feel like, well, I can be at the top too. But no, you've got to put your due diligence in. You've got to put your blood, sweat, and tears into it if this is really what you want to do.
Exactly.
And I think that's part of the issue as well.
I would have a lot of young people call me up and ask me how to get into radio, and of course they want to be on the big stations first. And I said, my first job was a little AM daytime radio station. When it got dark, the station went off the air.
Right.
I said, and that was the best learning experience for me because I learned everything. And then when I went up to the next level, the next job, I was prepared. And then so on and so forth, like climbing a ladder. I said, humble yourself, because you could work at this little small station for 6 months and know more about radio than somebody who went to college for 4 years, got a degree, but no radio experience, because that's really what radio is. Learning how to turn on the mic and what levels to talk at. Train your mind to, we call it front sell, back sell, tease stuff that's coming. Hey, stick around, coming up, I'm gonna tell you about Beyonce. Have you heard about this yet? Oh my goodness, you don't wanna miss it. I'll do that for you in 15 minutes.
Right.
You can learn that stuff on the small radio stations. And when somebody gets out of college, guess what? They're gonna get their first radio job. Hi, my name is Jerry Smith, and on the way, I got Jay-Z, I got 50 Cent, and
Listen, so one of the major things that I had to learn is, when you're speaking into the mic, you can't pop your P's and stuff in that mic. You've got to turn your head just slightly so that it doesn't get that pop in there. And so Deucer laughs at me because sometimes I'll do something and I'm like, oh, I just popped that P. Dang it, I just popped it. Because you can hear it. And so, and it comes off kind of, harsh on radio. So it's just little things that you have to learn that people just coming in, they just don't understand. They don't know it. And so, that's hilarious.
And it's true. I've trained some people who had no radio experience at all to go on and get really good jobs. I helped them put together what we call an air check tape, which is just kind of like a demo tape of them being on air. And, you teach them the basics, how to back sell, how to front sell, to do weather, do entertainment story, keep it short, keep it sweet, keep the forward momentum. And one station down in New Bern, North Carolina, which I eventually worked at, it was called KISS 102. So one of the people that I was helping to put together air check tape, the guy said, well, how long have you been doing radio, man? And the guy said, well, not really doing it yet. I'm trying to. And the guy says, well, you sound like you've been doing it for years on your tape there. Who helped you with this? Well, Jerry, I was Jerry Jam back then. Jerry Jam helped me out. It was like, man, I'm going to hire you, but you sound really good. And it sounds like you've been doing this for years. So I love to teach people how to do it, how to sound conversational, and just to put yourself in a position to take advantage of an opportunity when it presents itself. And there have been at least 4 people that I've helped get jobs with 0 radio background.
Wow.
So I always tell people the hands-on experience, they would come to the studio and I'd let them, do the voice work, back cell, front cell, and we edit it down and, use the board and all that stuff, teach them how to do a little production, simple commercials. And, because they had that experience, no 4 years of college, they were able to get into the profession, and some of them have had long years in the business. One guy is a millionaire now. I taught him, he was in high school. He ended up going to NC State. I was living in Greenville, but his passion was really engineering. But he got a job at G105 here locally. Then he got tired of radio, he did engineering, and then he opened up his own chain of Verizon cell phone stores, and he controlled the eastern part of the state with his franchise, and he went on to be a multimillionaire. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Richie Ballard is his name. Yeah.
Well, I want to get more into you,
Okay.
And we talked about all these radio stations that we work for, that you work for. I said we work for, like I was there with you, that you work for. So what was your inspiration behind Favor 93.7 Internet Radio?
Yeah, so in 2020, when the pandemic hit, the company that I worked for laid off 360 some odd employees, and I was a casualty of that. I knew in the midst of a global, I didn't really know what a pandemic was, to be honest. I knew what an epidemic was.
Right.
But I'm like, what is a pandemic? I never really got into that, thought. And they're like, that means it's global, all around the world. So I knew in the midst of a global pandemic, nobody was going to hire someone that had been in the business as long as I had been at the pay that I would demand. And at that time, it was 37 years. And so, I was like, "What, God?" I prayed. I said, "God, what am I going to do? Because I got to feed my family. I got a mortgage. I got a child about to start college, I think she was in her second year. I got 2 more years of college to pay. What the heck am I gonna do? And God told me, as clear as day, do for yourself what you've been doing for others all your life. I indirectly help people get radio airplay just by evaluating their music, giving them what I thought was best practices to put them in the best position to get their music played on the radio. I wasn't never in the music business on that side, the record. And then my radio station, I said, God has shown me favor all my life. I'm going to put a radio station on the air that reflects my relationship and how I feel about God, and that's Favor. My mother passed away September 5th in 2018.
Okay.
So I launched Favor on the day that she passed, at the time that they told me she passed, which was 5:55 a.m. on September 5th. September 5th in 2018. A lot of people don't know this. They know about Jerry Smith, the award-winning Jerry Smith, the pioneer of Jerry Smith. Well, on that little AM station, my mom had a preaching sermon show once a week. Every Wednesday, it was a 30-minute show. She overheard the general manager say that he needed some help, part-time help. And my mother knew I did college radio. And she said, well, my son did some radio in college playing the blues, right? She called it the blues. She called it the blues. And he said, well, send him down. I'd like to talk to him. So I went down, I talked to Mr. Jim McManus, and he hired me part-time. I almost got fired 2 weeks later, though, because I didn't want to play the rock. I didn't want to play the Southern gospel. I wanted to just play the contemporary Christian and the black. Now, I was a church boy. My mom was a preacher. My grandfather was a bishop. So I grew up in the church, but I wasn't always living the life of a church boy. So I still, like the secular music and so on and so forth. So I wasn't disciplined. And in college, you play whatever you want to play. I could play the same song 10 times in a row and no repercussion. It was just freestyle. I didn't really know the business of radio. So I was playing what I wanted to play out of the choices that I had. So I was supposed to play like praise, not black praise, like almost like Catholic, almost like Gothic type.
Gregorian.
Right. And then the Hintons, that's the only Southern gospel group that I can remember. But that was like country music, like deep country, you know what I mean? And then black gospel, contemporary Christian, the rock, and then a couple of others. So I would cheat. And I would only play the black gospel, Shirley Caesar, Luther Barnes, the Williams brothers, and, just the black stuff, and the rock, the Amy Grants, Michael W. Smiths, and so on and so forth. Leon Patella, Sandy Patty. And so he called me for a meeting, and I'll never forget Mr. McManus. He said, "So how long you been in radio?" And I didn't count my college. And I said, 2 weeks. And he said, "So you know more in 2 weeks than I know in 25 years?" "No, sir." I had like no bass in my voice because I knew I was wrong. I knew what I was doing was wrong because they trained me. This dot is for this category. This colored dot is for this one. There's a little clock. And I was just all over the place. He said, "When you're on the radio, we're not what we're selling to our listeners and our advertisers. When you're on the radio for your little 4 hours, we're something different. And you got two choices. One, you could execute the format that we trained you to do to be a professional broadcaster." This is the first time I ever heard that. "Or we can part ways and you can just take your stuff and leave today." "I'll do it the way you trained me, sir." That's exactly how it came out. And from that point on, I never broke a format. Whatever they told me where to talk, what music to play, from that point on, he said, "We're training you to be a professional broadcaster." And as I mentioned earlier in our show, a year and a half later, he said, "Man, you got to leave. You've outgrown us. We're paying you minimum wage and you are going to do really well and you're going to make a lot of money, way more than we're paying you. We just want to encourage you to spread your wings and leave our nest." And I was like, is he just trying to get rid of me? But everything he said came true.
Wow. Do you think that internet radio is the future for gospel music?
I think it's a part of the fabric for sure, because now everybody's used to streaming. Like when I launched my station, people were still a little iffy about streaming, but that's when Spectrum started offering streaming for television as opposed to the cable. DirecTV was starting to go into that direction from the satellite to streaming. Now you've got all these platforms that people are more comfortable with and familiar with, the Spotify's, Apple Music, Pandora, Google Play, and Apple Play, and so on and so forth. So now we're like our timing is perfect. Now, if you're in it, artists now focus on streams as a part of their revenue as opposed to the physical, which is the actual CD. So internet radio contributes to that. It's not as much as, the big boys and big girls, but, people see us as viable, and advertisers now see it as viable because they know a lot of people stream. At first they were like, streaming thing, I don't know. But they know that it doesn't cost as much to advertise on streaming platforms as it does the terrestrial.
Right.
And so we compete with that. And we're like global, You don't just hear us in your community or your metro, but you hear us all over the world.
Right. So with internet radio stations, you have to be purposeful as a listener. You've got to go to that platform or whatever, and then you have to, it's not something that you can just turn on like Sirius XM radio or something like that. How you drive people to your internet station?
Well, one of the main things that people use is social media. You know, all those different platforms. A lot of people have a lot of success, build a lot of audience through using social media. You know, your Facebooks, your IG, your Twitter. There's so many new things that seem to pop up that I don't even, you know, TikTok,
Right.
you know what I mean? So those things have kind of helped level the playing field, because to run a terrestrial radio station really is like, on the lower end, hundreds of thousands, like if you're an AM station or a low powered FM station. But once you get up to the big boys and big girl FM stations, you know, it costs millions of dollars to operate. Internet radio station is a fraction
Right.
of that. And but the key thing is still, you have to play good music. You have to play the hits, and you have to do it. You have to be intentional with it. Like I love music, and I'll play an artist who may not be well known, because I like their music and what they sound like, and I think they're just as good as the big boys and big girls. But there's a certain way that I have to present them on the radio. I have to, like, radio programming is like playing chess. You have to protect things. You have to move things. So you gotta play like a familiar song in front of that unfamiliar song or unfamiliar artist, and then you have to play something familiar after it. You're protecting it, just like you're protecting the king or a queen in chess. That's what you have to do with music. And when I explain to people programming, every single song has a job. It's not just happenstance. Where you put it in that clock for that 60 minutes has to be intentional. And the analogy that I give them is like a basketball team. They have 5 players, and every one of those 5 players has a role. You got the tall 7-foot center. He's the rim protector. He's going to get your rebounds. He may not be, although things have changed a lot now, but out there shooting 3-pointers or bringing the ball up the court and setting up the offense. That's what your point guard is. He's not rim protecting. He's not getting you a whole lot of rebounds.
He's taking it to the paint.
Right. He's a quarterback. He could be a good shooter, great assist. He's controlling the flow. Well, that's how your music is in your different categories. Your power, your medium, your new, your stay currents, your recurrents, all of them have a job to do when they're in that category. And your new music has to be protected because it's unfamiliar, and most people will tune out of an unfamiliar song. So you got to help it build familiarity slowly but surely. And once it gets to that comfort level of familiarity, then you give it another role. So I could talk programming, but it's like
No.
you're a mad scientist
Yeah.
because it's a lot that goes into
And
it.
you're giving opportunity to these new voices that we won't get on terrestrial radio because they're afraid to play it because
Right.
they are new or they're not known or
Right.
things like that. So that's an
Until
awesome
they
thing.
build up their resume.
Right.
And that's the good thing about internet radio. Like another part of what I do is called radio promotions. And I help people to get their music on radio. And I've broken a lot of artists. I've been doing it for 6 years. Well, May will be 6 years. So I've been doing it for close to 6 years, and I have 5 #1 Billboard charting
Nice.
songs.
Okay.
One of my clients has 2 #1s, and he was an independent artist, kind of like what we're talking about. And his voice is great, his music is great, but he just didn't have somebody pushing him and believed in him. And it's hard. And this guy's had 2 #1 Billboard charting songs.
Wow.
The other one was with Marette Brown Clark. The other one I got was with Ernest Pugh. And then in January, end of January, with Donnie McClurkin and his new song, Better After a While. I co-pushed that song on the radio with another big-time radio promoter, but Donnie wanted me to be a part of his team pushing it to radio.
Nice.
And my approach with all of them is the same. Whether nobody knows you, this is the plan. This is what we have to do. This is how you have to go about it. And most of my clients have never had much success on the charts. And working with me has been the best that they have ever done. I've got one guy right now, he's outside of top 100. Another guy from Wendell, North Carolina, he's at 118, and it's only been a month and a half that I've been pushing his record. And a lot of the people that I've worked with have been trying their best, but unfortunately just haven't had the right person on their team pushing it. And I believe that God gave me a formula. He gave me the relationships. I've got so much relationship capital in the business from my 40 plus years.
Yeah.
So,
And it sounds like you've been collecting all of this stuff over the years. From 12 years old, you've just been building on that, and that makes you the best person to be able to get someone to reach their goals. So that's awesome.
I mean, I had a conversation with a bishop out of Atlanta. He's got a song on the chart. He doesn't like how his radio promotions person is doing it. He said, man, I've been doing this for 6 months and I'm only 100 something. And I said, sir, I've got 2 clients that are less than 2 months that are higher on the charts than your song. And this is their first song.
Right.
One was the guy Thurman Lee, who I mentioned out of the Wendell area. And I said, but right now I can't take on any more clients, but I might be able to in April. And he said, well, please hold a spot for me. I mean, that's how good God is. And
so you need a team, it sounds like.
well, I'm getting there.
You need a
But see,
team.
the thing about what I do, this is the only unfortunate part, it's because of relationships.
Right.
So the people that I have great relationships with, and this is that relationship capital from all the years, they want me to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
They want to help me. They know my history of success in programming on the light, and they trust my ear. They know that I'm not going to promote anything that I wouldn't play myself.
As long, I could keep you forever, but I would be remiss if we did not talk about all of the honors that you received. And so being inducted into the Gospel Hall of Fame and receiving numerous honors, what did that recognition mean to you personally?
It means that God is looking over me, and He's got me. Because I don't do anything for fame, fashion, form, or show. I just do it because, one, I'm passionate about it, and I like to see people grow, and I like to see people succeed. But sometimes when you're doing that, because I don't know how to honor myself, I God put on my heart the Lamplighter Awards, which your producer helped me to do some great graphics. I mean, top-notch stuff, Grammy level, NAACP level, Stellar Awards level. I like to do things in excellence, but I like to help people or acknowledge people. And that's what the Lamplighter Awards was about. Local people, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So I don't really look for any accolades for myself, but sometimes you wonder, like, does anybody see me? I'm doing these great things, helping to revolutionize the format. I'm doing this and doing that and creating these $1 million events and hundreds of $1,000 events. Does anybody see that? And then when like I received a Lifetime Achievement Award from President Joe Biden, Presidential Award in 2021, I was like, wow, from High Ridge Gardens in the hood to being acknowledged by our Commander-in-Chief and his team. Wow. To be inducted in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame, Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, and so on and so forth. God, you're letting me know that this hard work and this selflessness is not in vain, and you see me. And I pray that my name will be written in the books, that God will say, come on in here, come on in. You've done a good, well done, my humble
and faithful servant.
Faithful servant. Come on, we've been waiting for. We got a radio station right down the road there. Follow the pearly roads there, the golden roads.
And you'll be doing
get
this.
busy.
And you'll still be doing this. Yes. Well, it's great. It's always great for those things that we do, especially, and you took the words right out of my mouth, the selflessness, because we can be so selfish in life, but to be selfless is a gift because not everyone has it. You know, sometimes we do most things for ourselves personally, but not really for others. And I've seen the work that you've done. And I did the background on the Lamplighter Awards song behind Tony Terry.
Yeah,
I did that. So when you brought that up, I was like, I did something on there too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Your voice was, oh,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah. I did
cool.
the background
Okay.
for behind Tony. So he was the amazing lead, and so it's easy to get lost when you're behind someone of that caliber. But yeah, I did the background.
So we're
for that.
connected some way.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for
Oh
doing
no,
that.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, listen. Before I get in trouble,
Okay.
we're going to stop, but I must have you again because this has been great, and there's so much that we did not get to. We just like capped the surface of everything, and that's okay because we've given a lot of great information. So thank you so much
Thank you.
for being here with me today. Thank you all of my viewers for being here, and remember to like, subscribe, and share, because if you don't, we can't be here, and I love being here with you. So thank you so very much. As always, I'm Kelly.
I'm Jerry Smith, and you can look me up online. Just Google Jerry Smith, and I'll pop up.
Yes, look, see, and I meant to ask him that, but now that you know, make sure you look him up because he's got some great things coming your way. Well, this has been Smoking Ice. Let's spark something real.
Smoke and ice, twice as nice. I'm your vice. Smoke and ice.
We hope you've enjoyed Smoke and Ice with Kelly and Wayne. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. Tell a friend so they too can be informed and entertained. For more information about the show, go to smokeandice.net.